During your first weeks of training, progress is pretty linear. You're seeing great results week after week. You're gaining more strength, your body's changing. And as awesome as it would be to maintain that linear progress over time, over the time span of months and years, which would probably mean that we'd all have the body and the relative strength of an Olympic gold medal gymnast. But unfortunately, that's not how things work. There comes a point where progress begins to slow down. There comes a point where you hit a plateau. And this is the point that a lot of people get pretty frustrated. Some even quit their workout routine, because they think that they're not able to keep on seeing results. So what do you do when things slow down? How do you make sure that you keep on progressing? One of my favorite strategies to apply at this point is overreaching and super compensating. Now, this strategy that I recommend after you've been training for at least, I would say, 4 months consistently. And we'll be talking about today. I'll be explaining in detail what it is and how you can use it with your calisthenics routine. Now, part one of this strategy, overreaching, is when you push your training past the point of what your body is able to recover from. Now, you obviously don't want to overdo that. You want to basically bring your body close to the edge and maybe pass it a little bit to the point that you realize that your body is not recovering enough. You realize that you've pushed yourself a little bit further from what you're used to, and this is what is called basically overreaching. When this is done in a planned and calculated way, your body has the potential to benefit from this harder training and reach new levels of strength, gain more muscle, and break through fat loss plateaus, of course, assuming that you're also adjusting your diet accordingly. That second part, those new levels of strength, that extra muscle and that extra fat loss, is what is called super compensation. In a nutshell, the art behind overreaching and super compensation is knowing when exactly to step back in order to allow your body to compensate and surpass its previous capacity of training volume and intensity. So it does take some detailed programming to accomplish this, but the main idea and the main principles behind it are the following. Step one is bringing your body to the edge or slightly crossing it of underperforming. This should be done usually within a time span of 4 to 9 weeks, depending on the workout routine. And a slight decrease in performance here is okay, but you just don't want to overdo it, of course. After that, you take a step back, you take a few days off, and you slowly reintroduce workload and intensity to your workout routine. These are also called deload weeks. And how long should these be? Well, it depends on how long you were pushing yourself. A really abstract rule, but I find this rule to work. Of course, it always depends on the person, but a really general rule of thumb here would be to take it easy for at least 1/4 of the amount of time that you were pushing yourself harder. A few side notes here and disclaimers. Number one, overreaching shouldn't be confused with overtraining, which leads to a loss of performance for longer amounts of time and can be even problematic for your health. Side note number two is that I find that most people worry about overtraining too much when the reality is that they barely get close to overreaching. Overtraining requires extreme amounts of training and it is more common for professional athletes. Still, disclaimer here, although some people might not even train close to what is required for a healthy person to reach overtraining, if there's a lot of accumulation of stress from other areas of their life, for example, if they're overworked and they're constantly stressed while they're also not getting enough sleep, even normal training volume and intensity can lead to nothing more than exhaustion and health problems for these people in the long run. So, in case you don't have everything else balanced in your life, I wouldn't try applying the strategy of overreaching and super compensation in general, but also especially if you feel that you belong to the last category of people, you should always make sure that you have a health specialist keep track of what you're doing and if it's good for you. Now, how do you use the training strategy of overreaching and super compensation? Well, there are multiple ways to do this, but here are two common ones that I like to apply and I see great results from by doing them myself, but also using them with the people I train. Number one is what I usually follow, which is a 2-month intense plan once a year that increases training volume and intensity progressively over a 9-week time span. You might have heard me talk about this plan. This is my favorite workout plan, the superhero bodyweight workout. Specifically, I go through 2 cycles of super compensation during this workout plan, which is what makes it so efficient. It's also what makes it so challenging, so I wouldn't recommend this plan for more than once a year. The first cycle lasts for 4 weeks, which is followed by a deload week. The goal here is to climb up to about 130% intensity and training volume from what your body is used to, and just scratching the surface of underperformance. After that, and after your deload week, you start to experience the effects of super compensation during the 6th week. And the goal here is to ride that wave and build your training volume and intensity up to about 170% this time of what your body is used to during the 2nd cycle that leads up to week 8. During week 8, you want to be once again on the edge of underperformance. And finally, during your 9th and last week, your goal here is to cross that edge of underperformance by slightly cutting down on the training volume, but increasing intensity and getting your best reps at all essential exercises such as pull-ups, dips, and sprints. Finally, once you're done with a plan, you allow super compensation to take place simply by taking it easy for a few weeks. After that, your body will definitely feel heavier and you'll feel even weaker for a few weeks until you completely recover. For example, for me this year, when I went through the superhero bodyweight workout plan 4.0, it took me, I would say, 3 weeks to completely recover. And the funny thing is that after those 3 weeks, people told me that I looked even stronger and even leaner. You can probably also see this if you check out the videos, like about 3 weeks after my last video that I did for the superhero. You know, if I'm maybe wearing like a tank top or something like that, you can definitely see that I'm a bit more muscular and a bit more veinier. The second approach that I recommend is following an overreaching and super compensation plan twice a week, but this time keeping it up to no more than 5 weeks. I like placing one of these during winter holidays and the other prior to summer holidays. The main reason for that is that, you know, during winter holidays, there are usually a lot of calories around us, so most of us are overeating, and you know, if that's the case, at least you want to make good use of that caloric surplus and invest it on building muscle. You know, after that, once you get back to your normal rhythm and the summer comes closer by, you have that motivation of, you know, looking good without a shirt, and this is when I place the second 5-week period of overreaching and super compensation. And my general recommendation for recovery after each 5-week period of overreaching is at least 1 week. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, I do recommend that you hire a professional, ideally, or at least look for a plan that has been well thought, that has been tested, and has been successful with other people. Also, keep in mind that if you want to give this a go by yourself, it might take a few attempts in the beginning until you get things right. So, you know, you might fail during your first overreaching and super compensation workout plans. But make sure that you keep detailed notes for your future self for next time to make sure, you know, what you should have done a bit differently, you know, what you should have refined, you know, how much training volume should you have added or subtracted, training intensity, and all that. I'll also leave a few videos below that can be helpful for designing a workout plan that uses the principle of super compensation. I hope all this helps. If you have any other questions, make sure you leave them below in the comment section. And now next time, keep on training.